of course, retail media was one of the hot topics there. And they were all impressed by what we can already provide and can provide down the road when it comes to retail media. But more than that, we got a lot of visits into our booth from retail media platform and retail media networks players, and they were all impressed and really recognized that this is something special, this is something unique, and this is the real opportunity for them to get into the physical store in a meaningful way.
Today on Adventures in Customer Land, it's part two of a long-term conversation with Yaniv Zukerman. Yaniv and I began this conversation after NRF last year, I believe, when I was introduced to their smart cart solution, which actually is very smart. Having seen a few of these myself that are moderately smart, this one actually is very intelligent. But there's so much to talk about. There's been a lot of water under the bridge, some great announcements, a lot of progress. Yaniv, thank you for joining me.
With pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Mike.
Of course. So maybe just to set some context for listeners who may not have heard part one of the conversation, what is Customate? How does it work? What makes it a unique solution?
Sure. So first of all, Customate is a smart cart. And what's unique for us that we are turning regular carts into a smart cart by using a retrofit solution with a clip-on smart panel that is attached to regular carts and instantly transforms them into a smart cart. And from that moment, the shopper that starts his shopping journey at the store can do many, many things, existing things, new capabilities, new features that enhances their journey, provides much more value, and eventually enables them to pay on the cart, go outside, with the cart, with the items, with minimal or without any friction, without any time being wasted, and with a lot of additional value provided. For sure, the retailers enjoy that because they get happier customers, which transforms into more loyal customers, repeat customers, and more income. And a lot of operational gains, operational efficiencies at the same time.
One of the things that impressed me most about my introduction to Customate was the modularity of the system. That unlike so many other cart systems that I've seen, the Customate solution basically bolts on to their existing cart inventory. You don't need to swap out carts at all. You just kind of, here it is, plug it in and go, which if you think about it, could present some limitations, but there weren't any visible to me when I tested out the solution at NRF. It seemed to be fully, vastly functional. But there's been so much progress since then, and I've seen in some of your materials, I've spoken to some of your colleagues. You know, if you can frame up what I saw earlier as hardware with screens, now we're talking to something that feels more like retail media on four wheels, and the data that not only powers that, but is derived from that. Can you talk about that a little bit and how Customate views that?
Sure, of course. So you're right. When you look at this from the outside, it looks like a nice screen on wheels, but certainly it's more than that. And I could say that what we do provide is much more than a device or a product. We essentially provide a platform. And that was always part of our vision. We never looked at this as a product. We looked at what we're doing as a platform and an open modular platform, as you rightly so mentioned, that it's highly modular. But it takes time. It takes time to get to this vision, to execute, to materialize this vision. And this vision makes sense because providing a platform eventually brings much more value to the entire ecosystems, to retailers, of course, to the shoppers, of course, but also to brands, to advertisers, to third-party service providers, and of course also for ourselves and for our shareholders. We had to start with a product. We had to first develop the product and to improve it over time, because we've learned from our own experience, from existing deployments with customers, what needs to get better. So we had the first generation, the second generation, and now we're already with the third generation that we have launched last year. And this is, I think, the generation you might have already seen in NRF next year. I invite you to come this year to NRF and see all the greatest and latest from us, which there are many new things.
We'll definitely stop by.
But we moved from eventually from a product to a system, because in order for that to work, it needs to encompass many additional elements. It's a detachable panel, so you need to charge it. So we needed to build our charging stations, our docking stations, and we need management tools to manage the fleet and to provide services. And now we have moved to the last phase, which is really building a platform that first enables much more value and opens our solutions to third parties, as we mentioned. So that's kind of the evolution that we have gone through in the last couple of years.
Can you talk a little bit about some of those extensions and new activities and new potential that the system view now offers as opposed to the product view? What some of those might be?
Yeah, so first, I think this providing a platform, an open platform, as I mentioned, it provides value to more parties. Eventually, I really see our platform as a meeting point between the shopper, the retailer, and advertisers or service providers or CPGs. We really provide the meeting point between this triangle, and it provides and really unlocks lots of value for all of them, for all of those parties, for retailers, of course, other than the improvements that I've discussed before. It opens up new pools of revenues and profits, which are desperately looking for and seeking. First, in-store retail media, which we all talk about retail media, but retail media currently is not really in store, in the physical store, and not in a dedicated sense, and not in a personalized sense, and not in attributed sense. We really provide this. We enable this. The ability to monetize data and to sell this, that's another opportunity for retailers. That's, of course, on top of all the operational gains that we already provide them. Faster checkout, labor relief, enhanced shoppers' experiences that will lead to loyal customers. So that's the retailers. If we're talking about brands, CPGs, we provide access, very smart access into the physical store, and into the being able to connect with the shoppers when it matters, in real time, while they are doing their shopping, while they're making their decisions, and it can be very personalized, and it could be effective. The impact is measurable, and we can help them also close the loop. What we provide them is the tool to do everything in an attributed manner. So every dollar spent in advertisement campaigns could be measured, and they could immediately see the effect of those investments. And for the shoppers, of course, is more value, because we provide them more services, more possibilities, more offers, but the relevant ones. The relevant ones when it's relevant and in the right spot.
I'm thinking of how that gets worked out practically in physical retail media, because you're right. As explosive as retail media has been, the physical in-store presence still is just a tiny component of it, largely because those are hardware-driven solutions that can be really difficult and complicated to deploy. On the other hand, let's just talk this through for a minute, because on a smart cart situation, if you've got some sort of screen in front of you and the shopper has logged in, or it somehow understands that this shopper is a member of the loyalty program or is a frequent shopper or whatever that is,
Yep.
They can be identified their preferences can be loaded in, and you can be serving them everything from personalized ads on the screen to even, I would, kind of geolocated messaging depending on where they are in the store, which is something that, again, I've spoken to countless retail media technology providers. Nobody can offer. Nobody can offer anything like that, which I think is got to be huge potential. I'd love to hear how significant that function is on Customate's roadmap. I happen to think it's massive, but I'm sitting here on the outside, considering everything else that the Customate solution provides. How big a factor is the retail media function?
It's dramatic. It's dramatic. It's capturing a significant part of our thinking, our roadmap, our business development activities, our messaging, because we see a huge potential there. And currently, when we scope the universe, we don't see any alternative to usher in retail media in a meaningful way, in a valuable way, into the physical store. And this is something we get feedback for that on a daily basis. I just came back from the grocery shop in Las Vegas 3 weeks ago. And other than, of course, meeting a lot of retailers there of course, retail media was one of the hot topics there. And they were all impressed by what we can already provide and can provide down the road when it comes to retail media. But more than that, we got a lot of visits into our booth from retail media platform and retail media networks players, and they were all impressed and really recognized that this is something special, this is something unique, and this is the real opportunity for them to get into the physical store in a meaningful way. Having those out-of-door screens or digital screens that just being spread out in the store, it's kind of spray and pray approach. You put the advertisements there, and you just hope that the right person will see the right ad at the right time, and that it will lead into conversion. But how can you be sure, and how can you measure that? It's only after the fact, and we know immediately. And more than that, it's I think certainly when you compare it to the physical elements today that are used for in-store advertisements, but also, as I mentioned, for the digital ones, and several elements that are unique for our are unique for smart cards in general, and specifically for us. First, think about it. You have a dedicated screen in front of your eyes for, let's say, 45 minutes, 50
That's
minutes.
Traveling with the shopper.
It's traveling with the shopper. You can't avoid it, really. And you don't want to avoid it, but you can't avoid it. It's there for you, and it's only for you at that particular time frame. And the average is about 45 minutes to 50 minutes of a visit in a grocery store, in a large supermarket. So it's there, it's with you. Then we know whatever you're doing. When I'm saying we, I mean it's us together with the retailer, because as I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, we are connected to their own systems, to the point of sale system, but also to the loyalty club. So whatever is available there could also be poured into the data that is relevant to make the right offers and the right decisions at the right time. But more than that, we provide specific understandings of things that are happening in real time, and only we know about them. For example, you uploaded a shopping list. The shopper uploads a shopping list to the cart. Immediately, this is a plan. We know what they intend to buy right now. They are starting to scan products and add them to the carts. We know which product has been scanned, which product has been added to the cart, or which product has been removed from the cart. When they book their turn or a spot on one of the service counters, we know they are going to go and buy cheese or fish, or going to the pharmacy. This is something you can work with. So we know where they are at the store. We know what they're touching, what on the screen, what they're looking. All of those, we know what their dwell time. We know when they move. We know where they stand still. All of those elements are a gold mine for decisions and triggers that can trigger the right offer, the right promotion, the right ad at the right time, and it's relevant. It's relevant.
We do a fair amount of work in customer behavior research, and that kind of granular moment by moment emotional changes, what's registering as positive, what's registering as negative, and how big or small those registrations end up is traditionally really difficult. And I mean really difficult to get in physical space. We can understand it in a digital space really, really easily, but in physical space, it's just, there's some workarounds. But I'm imagining that the Custom-8 solution connected with the right kinds of technology could detect and register those emotional, it's called relevancies, which could power so much decisioning for the retail media networks, for the retailers, for the CPGs, to understand what's really happening there beyond just the rational value of what the offer is, but what they're feeling right there as well. And I'd be interested to see if and how that could ever get worked out using your solution, because right now it's such valuable data and there's really no sensible, consistent way to gather it. So I'll put that one on your roadmap.
Maybe we can connect some sensors directly to the shopper in some manner and really measure their behavioral mood, their mood or behavioral, or
It would be fun to test it anyway.
Yeah.
So a couple of things come to mind, and I've been thinking about this ever since our first conversation as well. But one of the great things about your solution is that it's modular, is that this technology fits onto existing cart inventories. Nonetheless, there's still some work to do because there are retailers out there with thousands and thousands of shopping carts, and deploying on that scale, I don't care if it's a small and easy thing or not, but just because of that scale is something to contend with. And I'm just curious, when you are selling your solution into a grocer, what does that conversation look like? And how do you describe the actual lift? Is there some sort of mental shift that the CTO is going to have to go through to figure this out? Or what's it really like to implement? You can optimize for NPS, and that's good. You can optimize for CSAT, also good. You can optimize for loyalty, and that's good too. But here's the thing. If you're not optimizing for total customer value, for total customer profitability, then you're just optimizing for output, not the bottom line. Here's the truth. If your strategy isn't building better customers, more frequent, more loyal, more deeply bonded, then it's not a strategy, it's a performance. At Customerland Studio, we help brands find the value, find the opportunities, the force multipliers hiding inside the customer relationship. And then we help them optimize for scale, for yield, for profit across the entire relationship. Because the other thing we've learned, the only strategy that actually matters is the one that makes your customers more profitable. Customerland Studio, to make better customers. Go to customerland.net and click on the studio.
Mental shift, it's a good way to phrase it. I think we all know retailers, they are a tough cookie in most cases, and very conservative, and rightly so. It's not easy. It's huge operations, and it's not easy to make significant changes. So first and foremost, and what we realized and understand, it takes time. It takes time, and you need to start small. You need to start with a point of a POC or a pilot. We need to prove our value, but also to portray a clear view and process how we grow with them and how we continue to support them. So It's about the product, it's about the company, it's about the ability to support, it's about the rollout. All of those elements needs to come into place from the get-go. But we need to start in all cases, we need to start with a proof of concept and with a pilot. And we have a very structured way to do this. We have a lot of experience doing this. We have done this several times with different retailers, different locations, geographies around the world. But I think more than everything, we realized, and we're trying to help the retailers realize that it's not just adapting a technology. It's really about change management. They're changing something fundamentally. And in order for smart cards to be significant, it will drive significant change, but it is a significant change in the operations eventually and the way the shoppers are doing their shopping and behave. And it takes time, and it needs to be managed in that way. So how do we do this? First, we help them by starting from the beginning, going through very structured processes of understanding together what is unique for this retailer. There are specific needs, specific requirements. What systems do they use? What process do they use? How their shoppers behave? How their stores look like? And turning all of those into a very structured plan of how to build first and foremost the pilot, and later down the road the deployment, the commercial deployment. And then we run to a very structured and well-designed integration process. Okay, something that takes a couple of weeks, up to 2.5 months. Eventually, at the end of this process, our systems are working together in concert. More than that, we need to establish together with them the right team. They have to build their own team, which is committed, multidisciplinary, has the right charter. We need to set objectives from day one together, to agree on the objectives, to decide on KPIs, to make sure that together with the steering committee and the shared team, we measure and how do we advance and how do we reach and how do we accomplish all those objectives and measure those KPIs. More than that, we provide, it's not something we can do really remotely. Our teams are there all the early phases, and until we understand and realize that they are good on their own, we are there with them, working hand in hand with their own teams at the stores, supporting everything from the planning, the deployment, the training, the service, even customer service, shopper service. In many times, we provide the first phases our own people to help service their customers at the early stages to make sure that everything is going smoothly inside. It's new process, it's a new system, it's a new device. You need education there, and you need training.
So just from a let's say from a start to finish standpoint, from the moment a deal is signed with a new retailer until the system is fully deployed, what would that timeline look like typically, if there is a typical?
I'm not sure there is a typical, and let's first talk about the first phase. It's from the start to the time that you have, I would say, working executed. We've executed the pilot, a successful pilot. That is a process that will take, I would say, several months. It will take something like 3 months from the get-go until we have the pilot ready to be launched. And then a typical pilot could take between 3 months up to 6 months. It really depends on the size, on the complexity. And then it takes time, of course, to move to the decision to deploy at scale. And how much time that would take, this is really something that really changes by retailers.
I'm sure.
And as you know, this entire industry right now is still at relatively embryonic phases. So most deployments are not that large at that point. So it might take a couple of months. It might take even a couple of years. It really depends on the size of the retailer, whether they have 50 stores, 500 stores, or 5,000 stores, and how much of coverage and penetration they want within their chain.
The idea that this is now a platform and that what you're developing looks to me more like a marketplace with different applications. It can be attached and embedded, different functionality for the customer and for the retailer. It looks like a very expansive view of what this solution is right now. Are you planning on other verticals beyond grocery at this point, or is this still, for the foreseeable future, a grocery only product?
Yeah, so right now our focus, I would say, is mostly on grocery, but we're not limited to grocery. I would say that there are other segments, other verticals that could really benefit from a smart card or the capabilities of a smart card and a smart card platform. For example, pharmacy and healthcare. Think about it. We can really help where the card can enable personalized guidance for shoppers there, medication reminders, for example, wellness content delivery while shopping. Another vertical could be the DIY, the home improvement vertical, where we can really help shoppers and retailers, of course, guide the shoppers through their visit. Think of a project. You have a checklist. You have ideas on devices that you need, on things that you need in order to complete your project. Some advices, some professional advices that you can get on the cart, and there are other verticals as well. But it's not only about other verticals. If you think about our platform as an enablement of a marketplace, we are opening up our capabilities and the business potential for other potential partners. So we've discussed retail media, so advertisers for sure, but it's much more than that. Think about it: when shoppers are visiting even the grocery store using the carts, that's a golden opportunity to provide them with other services, financial services, hospitality services. I know you're interested in specific food because those are the things you have purchased. That's a great opportunity maybe to offer you a visit to a nice Italian restaurant, for example, or to offer you a coupon or a deal at the pizza just across the street, and you can pick up the pizza on your way home. We can open up the platform for the retailer's own marketplace or third-party marketplaces, and to expand the assortment that is available to you, not physically at the store, but digitally. And this is something you can buy on cart at the store, pay now, and get it delivered to your home. For example, a TV or additional services. We can lead to partnerships between different types of retailers. Think about it. You're doing a shopping at a grocery shop, but now you can get offers for toys from a partnering toys retailer that can sell their own goods and own products for you at this particular moment. It's a very similar experience to how you do your shopping online at home. The good thing is that you're doing it at the physical store, and we get more information and more understandings and more triggers that can help us and help third parties to provide the right offer. And there are many more other opportunities that our platform can really connect with other application players, for example, that can provide you specific applications that are relevant, a recipe, reviews, specific apps that might be very relevant for the shopper at the right moment at the store.
Let's look out a few years from where we are right now, and I would say that you're at the very, very leading edge of what's happening in cart data and engagement. What do you think that's going to look like in, say, I was going to say 5 years, but 5 years is, it could be 100 at this point. Let's say 2 years out. How has the shopper's journey changed compared to where we are right now?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I think uh, first and foremost, I think everything will be easier for the shopper at the store, for sure. Otherwise, they will not go to stores. Everything really will take 100% of the friction outside of the store. I think if I'm looking at what we can provide and how it will translate into the overall experience of the shoppers and what retailers can gain and advertisers, the CPGs in 2 or 3 years from now, I think the store can become really the most measurable, the most data rich, shopper-centric channel in retail, maybe even more than digital channels, because eventually it's physical and you get the actual physical experience there, which is really unique. And I think if we're looking at our role in this, we can provide the platform, the foundation that makes it really possible. It's possible to really provide a unified, accountable media channel. That's the store will become that way because today it's not really measurable, not in real time. It will be measurable, 100% measurable and addressable in real time. Everything could be verified, could be attributed. So I can see that a lot of dollar spendings will migrate to the physical store, and that will be incremental to trade marketing dollars that are today available for retailers and the advertisers. What else? Data, more and more in data, and I think data will be a big opportunity. The store will be really a goldmine of data for the retailers to enjoy, for companies like us to enjoy in concert with the retailers. It could be turn into a real flywheel of monetization of the data and more businesses and more partnerships that will really tear down the wall between digital and physical, between different channels, and even between different retailers and different entities in the ecosystem.
I'm thinking of what in-store retail media could look like in a couple of years, very short years, and I see a lot of that being powered by solutions like yours. Yanev, I can't thank you enough for first of all dealing with our schedules and trying to get this back on the books again, but for
Yes.
spending the time here and explaining what progress looks like from Custom8's perspective, because it's really interesting. I congratulate you on your solution, and we'll, of course, be paying attention to it. So with all that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you for inviting me and for the opportunity to discuss all those exciting evolution of our industry.